Day 4 at Ahmedabad is the Final Word Daily. Adam Collins, Jeff Lemon. He is going to tell us about the entire day's play in 30 seconds.
289 for 3 when India resumed. Virat Kohli 59 not out, and that's all that anyone was interested for a long time. He was on the slow boat to 100, but he got there eventually, even though Jadeja got out to a bad shot. Shreyas Iyer had a bad back. Bharat pumps 21 off and over at one point in between defending everything else. Axar Patel comes in, makes another 50, of course he does. They get up to 571. Kohli 186, trying to get a double 100, holes out, looking for that big other milestone. Doesn't quite get there. Australia deficit of 91. They're none for 3 overnight.
With Matt Kuhneman opening because Usman Khawaja's hurt his leg when trying to take a diving, tumbling catch over the boundary line at one stage in the middle of the day. They think he's going to be fine, but they are yet to really determine that. So Kuhneman is effectively the night watcher, batting with Travis Head.
Also, he's not allowed to bat because he was off the field. So there's the old umpiring. Yeah. Because you've been off for a period of time, you can't bat until number 7, I reckon.
Yeah, so. Virat was saying to us that if you acquire the injury, if it's an injury obtained in the game.
Impact injury.
Anyway, I don't really know the rules on this particular matter. They change a lot. What I do know is that Virat Kohli now has finally broken the 1,206-day drought to reach his 28th Test ton. 8th against Australia, 16 short of a double. Was out there for 364 deliveries, which is his second longest Test innings ever. All the others that have been around that mark have been doubles, and it's a shame he didn't stay it out for the longest or get to 200 because it would have been such a celebration here, but they had enough chances to celebrate. It was quite the moment when he reached 3 figures.
The symbolism of it, 1,206 days, 12, that's 100 for each egg there normally is in a carton of eggs. A duck egg is the reason that you have the terminology of a duck, because it looks like a nought. There are 2 noughts in 100. It's all coming together. It's numerology. It's paleontology really originally, because dinosaurs turned into birds. They started laying eggs. They still lay eggs. They just have feathers now. Maybe they had feathers then. I don't know. But I'm just saying, look, the point is, Virat Kohli made 100. Everyone was very happy. It didn't make me feel a lot of strong things, aside from just being relieved that bit of the narrative, capital T, capital N, is over. We don't have to worry about how long it's been and count the days and all the rest of it, and he'll probably just go back to making hundreds more regularly now. But look, it was about as easy conditions as you could hope to get to do it, and all he wanted to do was just bat all day to bat the Australians out of the game. India didn't need to win the Test match, so it meant it wasn't a thrilling kind of 100 until the end, where it was like, can he get to the double with the tail?
Yeah, I'd challenge that slightly by saying that Sri Lanka might win tomorrow.
They might.
But indeed, India might win tomorrow as well.
They probably won't, because it's New Zealand, and they're just plucky. They always find a way out, New Zealand.
But even if it was Zimbabwe playing the Australian side of 2003, I'd say the same thing. If you've got your destiny in your own hands, you should try and play accordingly. And I was a little bit confused at why Kohli played the way he did in the first session, but then I kind of thought about it. The game within a game did eclipse the broader mission for a time there. I think the first session, I've got it written down here somewhere, 1 for 59 from 26 overs. Kohli in that stretch made, I think, 29 from 92 with no boundaries. There were 4 boundaries in the session. They all came down the other end, and it was pretty clear that, but I want to counter that by saying that I see the bigger picture. Kohli getting to 3 figures does liberate him more broadly, regardless of the World Test Championship mathematics. Him getting this ton, and he celebrated in a modest, subtle way, small bat raise, big smile on his face, kissed his wedding ring. He feels like a man at peace. But him getting this out of the way, I think, will open him up to being a better Test cricketer in the short term and medium term. So I kind of see it both ways. A, he probably could have gone harder in the first session today, but B, what will he be able to achieve at the World Test Championship final if they make it, and in the next few years now that this is dealt with?
Yeah, and I don't think those two things rule each other out either. No. There's no reason why he couldn't have been a bit more proactive. There was a period there where he scored 4 runs in 14 overs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was pretty much all through that first session. He ended up putting on 29 in the first session. I mean, he puts on 12 in 22 overs at one point. It was dull, let's be honest. And the Australians had a lot of fielders back. There were plenty of gaps in the field. You know how good he is, how adept he is at picking gaps, and he was on the front foot defending the spinner, back to the bowler, back to the bowler, back to the bowler. That was the bit that I didn't understand. And he got more reticent really after Jadeja got out, looking to hit one down the ground, chips one to mid-on. Look, that can happen. But
and he was trying to go as well, Jadeja. Yeah. 3 times in that over, he tried to play a shot like that.
And I think, and Kohli's in 2 minds as well at that point, because he's thinking, well, Shreyas probably isn't going to bat. He'd been sent off for scans on his back.
Shagger's back.
Bharat hasn't made too many runs in the series.
Couldn't hit it off a square till today.
Ended up making his highest score today in what was it, 44. And then after that, you're back to relying on your all-rounders again. So I could understand why Kohli would be like, okay, I'm just going to do this myself. I'm just going to make sure I bat until we're as close to level as possible. But I also thought India could have been bowled out 100 behind and it wouldn't have really hurt their chances of survival in the match.
Exactly.
What was Australia going to do at that point? Pile up 400 in 2 sessions and then bowl them out in 2 sessions?
This was kind of how we were doing the maths with Ravi Shastri in our commentary. We're like, it might not be a bad outcome if they are bowled out 50 behind. Now, just to put it in perspective, and this is the criticism of those critiquing Kohli, if you like, the criticism of the criticism.
Oof, this is meta.
Jadeja, when he gets out there, 309 for 4,
sure.
and they don't have Shreyas, and Akshar's walking in probably a position or two too high compared to where he normally would bat. In saying that, Axar goes out and makes 79. So what a tremendous performance that was. And the third half century of the series, we'll come to that in a bit more depth in a sec, I suppose. So I get the period of consolidation. It's just that maybe that went for 45 minutes or an hour longer than we expected it to, because Axar was clearly well set. Kohli couldn't have been more set on that track. Some more balls turned today than the last few days, but this wasn't. I got some replies back to me saying, "Well, Khawaja batted at the same pace." So I'm like, "Yeah, but the game was in a different spot."
But he didn't know what was going to happen in the match at that point, because I looked at that too, and I thought, well, the Australians could have batted faster. They could have tried to score faster, and maybe they should have. But they were also 4 for 170. They were in a worse position, relatively speaking. Green did pick up the pace in the back half of his innings, and Khawaja was just trying to be the one to bat through. But at that point, it's the first innings. You don't know what's going to happen yet. When you're batting on day 4, that's a very different thing. When you know what is happening, you know how the pitch is playing, you know how the bowlers are struggling to get anything from it. You know it's not going to fall apart on day 5. Really, it might get a little harder to bat on. It's not going to suddenly turn into a snake pit. And you know that you are roughly, you're not at parity, but you're not that far behind in the game. So I think at that point you've got the license to attack more. And there
probably it probably shut off an avenue to victory, right? There were 2 ways for India to win. Avenue 1 was getting bowled out, or indeed declaring behind, and trying to get Australia to set up a chase on the final day, which I just sense they probably would have, based on Steve Smith's language before this Test match. They really wanted 2-2. The alternative way was to shut Australia out, get a lead as they did of 91, and go to work tomorrow. It might turn out that India bowl Australia out in 2 sessions and they win the Test match anyway, and good luck to them if they do. It's just that Avenue 1 would have given them a little bit more time, and that's a scarce resource.
I think it's just a difference in attitudes, and this was that old-fashioned attitude of we are going to make sure that we secure the Test match first, and that's okay. Like, I think that's acceptable. I think in the Brendan McCullum era, people are more likely to be like, well, you shouldn't do that. You should try to make 600 in 5 sessions, and that's what Australia should have done, batting first and all the rest of it. Not everybody wants to play that way. Not everyone has to play that way. When you're 2-1 up, you have the luxury of saying, we're not going to bother doing that. We're just going to make sure that we draw the Test match first. But as you say, whether the WTC implications,
you wouldn't want to you wouldn't want to draw here. I mean, again, it's an unlikely scenario, but New Zealand are 1 down, chasing 285. Day 5 tomorrow. They're 1 for 20 odd overnight, and I would say, I haven't seen WinViz. I'm not even sure if WinViz is operating in this series, but I would say that draw's got an 8 in front of it for tomorrow from where we are right now. So with that in mind, if Sri Lanka win and India draw, then that does open up. If Sri Lanka have 2 good Test matches in a row, and who's to say they won't? They did knock off South Africa when no one expected anything of them away from home a few years ago. So that's just a point on the way through.
What I will come back to is that when it started to get fun was after Kohli's got to the 100. Once he's got to about 120 actually. And then he starts playing his shots. So he's scored 5 boundaries to this point. He hasn't scored a boundary on the entire second day. And then he peels off 10, not in successive overs, but a couple here, a couple there. The 2 off Cameron Green were my favourites. The 1 through cover immediately followed by the 1 through mid-wicket.
To go to 150 as well. The milestone you love so dearly.
Yeah, I love 150s. They're so important. They're so significant. Mitchell Starc starts him off with a low full toss, trying to hit the Yorker, and Kohli just... I swear to God, he was just trying to push it for a single to mid-off, and he just hit it a bit straighter, and so sweetly it just went to the boundary for 4 instead. And then he was up and running, and so then he's past 150. But then again, it puzzled me. Once he gets to 170 or so, then he slows right down again, and it's like, you're batting with the tail, man. Do you want a double? Do you want to get a double? You're going to have to hit some boundaries. It's like, nah, I'm not going to hit any boundaries. I don't hit boundaries anymore. And once Axar Patel got out, he didn't hit a boundary after that dismissal right through until the end of the innings. Now, when he's batting with the last man in with Mohammad Shami, they've got everyone back on the fence. But I'm like, just go over the bowler's head. There's a big gap there. And he kept trying to hit him over mid-wicket and eventually gets caught out there in the deep for 186. So there were some satisfying moments, but I also found it a frustrating innings because I enjoy watching him bat. And I was like, do the thing that is good to watch. Like, do the thing that we want to see. Hit a couple down the ground. Get 200. Why not? Go big. Make the most of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty small sample size what you're describing there. From Axar getting out to the end, it's only 6 overs. So it ended in a real hurry, and they were playing the game where Smith had 9 out on the rope. It's always hard. Right, in theory, you can go Michael Bevan straight pass back to bowler in that situation, but a bit harder than it looks because, and we haven't talked about Australia's bowlers yet.
That's easy. Just pop it over the bowler's head.
They bowled well.
That's what everyone should do. Just hit him over the bowler's head, easy.
And Nathan Lyon's longest spell in Test cricket, I think it turns out to be, or second longest maybe.
Longest,
65 overs,
longest,
9 maidens, 3 for 151. He bowled so well across 2 days. He said yesterday that he bowled better yesterday than when he took 8 for last week at indoor. And look, that's a thing that bowlers sometimes say when they don't get wickets, but I think it marries up with what we were watching with our own eyes, that Lyon bowled splendidly, as did...
He's in the top 100 all-time for overs bowled in a Test innings.
Very good, I like that. He also went past Ashwin for wickets against each other, am I right in saying?
Yes, he's got 7. He's got Ashwin 7 times because Ashwin played a slog sweep to beat mid-wicket. So Ashwin's got Lyon 6. Lyon has Ashwin 7.
And I think it's 115 or 116 or 113 in the
Australia versus
India. So their stats are amazing, and like, who knows, Ashwin might walk out tomorrow, take 7 for pool level before they go to the World Test Championship final at the Oval, if they pick Ashwin to begin with. They prefer Jadeja when it's one spinner and that all-rounder configuration. Time will tell on that front. But Tom Murphy, 3 for 113 from 45.5. Again, like, for a young bowler, the experiences that he's gathered through Nagpur and Delhi, Nagpur of course taking 7 at the first time of asking, not getting a lot of action last week at indoor, but getting the huge wicket of Kohli on the first morning and setting him up in a Warne-esque way, and then getting Kohli for the 4th time. I know he was hitting out at the end, but nevertheless getting Kohli a 4th time in the series, what that will do for a 22-year-old. They did so much of the heavy lifting because Stark only bowled 20 overs. I'm not sure why he didn't bowl in the first session. The physio was out there at one point. Green bowled 18, which is his 2nd biggest workload in his entire professional career. He bowled 24 in a Shield game back in 2019. They don't like him bowling that many overs, and I'm tipping the owners of the Mumbai Indians won't like it too much either with the IPL around the corner.
KS Bharat, that was fun, the over where he took on Cameron Green. Cameron Green says, let's do the short ball attack. KS Bharat says, cool, I'm going to hook you for 6. Not before.
Remember he ducked 6 in a row to start with? I can't believe Kettleborough and Nitin Menon, I mean, I look forward to asking them at some point. There were 6 genuine bounces, I thought, and somehow Green got away with it. He ducked all of them. Next over, first ball, Kohli hooks the ball down to long leg for 1, and KS Bharat goes 6-6-4. There are a couple of front foot no balls in there as well. Complete chaos, and the klaxon's going off, and the crowd are going wild, and Kohli's on about 93 at the time. And unfortunately, Bharat was gutted to get out when he did, because it meant he wasn't out there for the Kohli moment. Axar got that privilege.
Let's look at one other thing. Kohli 75 international hundreds.
Yes.
Now, let's say he gets a couple in the one-day series against Australia.
3 matches, 5 matches.
Yeah, 3 matches. Only 3 matches, but maybe let's be generous here. Let's say he gets 2 there. Maybe he gets 1 in the World Test Championship final. Then they play a couple of tests in the West Indies. So there might be another couple over there, and then he goes to the World Cup, and did Rohit Sharma make 6 of them in the last World Cup? Let's say Kohli gets 5. We're taking him up to 85.
Didn't get any in 2019.
Well, no, I know, but we're just living in a dream scenario here. That's got him to 85 before the end of the year.
Well,
just saying.
I would say that the last quarter might be quicker than the 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
Owing to the fact that he went 3 years without a ton altogether. I know he's piled a few on since, but yeah, he might take him 5 years to get the last 25 if his career is sustainable.
If he can be bothered, maybe.
Yeah, he's already 34. Yeah, he might not. Yeah, but then again, he's the fittest guy in the Indian team, so it's reported, and he's clearly
fit. But my gosh, don't you just know it?
Indeed, he's got that tenacity. You can see him wanting to be there at 38 or 39 and keep on keeping on, especially if he gets close. I mean, he's not going to retire on 97 international hundreds, is he? That's not going to happen. So it's too much of a milestone.
You equally think he might play some shots on 186 not out. I mean, it's just thinking,
well, I don't think he wasn't playing shots there. Just to counter that point, he was trying to. It's just the field was spread. Anyway,
right at the end, but the lead up to that point. Anyway, let's also have a little word for Axar Patel.
Please.
3rd half century of the series.
He might be player of the series,
He probably is, because they probably, he hasn't taken any wickets, he's barely bowled. What's he taken, 2 wickets in 4 tests, I think? So
he was on track to become the quickest Indian to 50 test wickets before Nagpur. He's still stuck on 49.
He was on 47 off 8 test matches, 9 test matches.
I think he would have been pulling level with Ashwin with 9. tests for 50 wickets had he arrived at that mark at Nagpur, but got a wicket in the first innings there, had 5 wicketless innings, got one a couple of days ago. But yeah, you're right, like it's been the batting.
But his 250s in the first 2 test matches, they are what win India those first 2 test matches. They don't win unless he does what he does. The one here today wasn't as vital, but it was fun. The slog sweeping, he was like, how many sixes can I hit in a test innings? Heaps, I reckon. Let's just keep taking them on. Once he'd got himself well set, you know, I mean, really he got to 49 or so and he gets the 50 and then just starts pulling out the big, not the broom, but the turbo broom, you know, like the jet-powered broom, the electric broom, and just banging them into the crowd. Yeah, exactly. Again and again. So, I don't know. It's always fun watching someone do something that they're not supposed to be the person to do. You like watching batters take wickets, you like watching bowlers make runs. And yeah, he's better than a bowler with the bat, but the fact that he's been so influential is hugely significant.
Yeah, he's going to make test tons if he gets a chance to bat in the top 6 or 7.
One today.
Yeah, me too. He got out against the flow. We start coming back, a little bit of movement.
Chop on,
just a tiny bit of reverse swing, enough to get the set man out. And yeah, I thought he was a lock for 100 because he moved from 68 to 78 in 2 balls against Kuhnemann. And I thought if he gets another over against Kuhnemann, or indeed he's hitting with the spin.
True.
Well,
he might get to the 100 in an over, basically.
And the way he corrected
Farrell Harker.
Yeah, the second 6 he hit was a delivery. It was in 2 balls, wasn't it? 66 to 78. The second of those actually was the slider across him, and he adjusted almost mid-swing, picking it up off the pitch. You've got to have like a high skill level to be able to do that. This wasn't a conventional ball. It was a better delivery from Kuhnemann. Nevertheless, I agree. I think when you're thinking about who the best spinner in the series is and who the player of the series is, I think Jadeja being so influential at Nagpur and then doing it again at Delhi and bat and ball. I think that even though Ashwin has taken more wickets at a better average and was equally important at Delhi at different times, and was the catalyst for the collapse at Indore, I reckon Jadeja's got Ashwin covered by a nose because of when he did it and the runs. And then Axar has every batter in India's lineup covered due to the consistency. 3 half centuries, 2 of them on snake pits, 2 of them in 7th wicket stands that defined India's first innings performances, that got them enough scoreboard pressure to turn the screws on Australia. Then what he did today to get them up to a lead of 91, to accelerate when they needed to. I know Kohli went to the strike rate of like 75 after reaching 100. Well, Axar was part of that, kind of liberating him.
At about 0.75 before reaching.
Yeah, so the after 100 bit is where Axar comes into his own. So I share that view. He may well be the player of the series.
Final Word Hall of Fame, where we pick our most final word moment of the day, brought to you by Visit Melbourne, the campaign to visit Melbourne. That's just what it says on the tin. VisitMelbourne.com is the website. I'll tell you one thing, if you go to Melbourne, you can take a ride over the city in a hot air balloon. That's a thing you can do. I've seen these hot air balloons a lot of times. Once I've been in one, and about the other 99 times I've been up until 6 in the morning for various reasons and have seen them come up. They always go up at dawn, or before dawn even. You want to be filling your hot air balloon at about 4 in the morning, just before the sun comes up. And then they go floating over the city in these beautiful drifts, these graceful parades of hot air balloons over the city of Melbourne. It's a thing that you can do if you visit Melbourne.
And they go over the MCG as well. I've done the one that goes over Lords in London, and it's an amazing break of day experience. Tomorrow when the balloons go up, they can look over the Yarra River through the main drag of, or the main vein of Melbourne, you might call it. It's a public holiday for Labor Day. It is a 3-day weekend where they have the Birdman Rally today. You'll have to Google it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you won't understand. And the king of Moomba is Rob Mills, Millsy, famous Australian Idol fan and famous Hawthorn supporter who I knew a little bit years ago. And red hot Rhonda Birchmore is the queen of Moomba.
Wow.
Can you not have 2 more better icons of Melbourne than those 2? I do not think so. So that's what's going on in Melbourne this weekend with the balloons going up over the top. Why wouldn't you want to visit? Book it today.
So a few things, say if you're watching this in Ahmedabad or Nagpur, a few things you need to look up. The Birdman Rally, Rhonda Birchmore, the King of Moomba,
Rob Mills,
and
mostly known as Millsy.
Yeah,
great bloke.
I mean, straightforward.
He used to come to the football with us incognito.
Australian nicknames, that's how they work. Get a hot air balloon ride, why wouldn't you? And when you're up there, you can sing 99 Luftballons. You can Google that as well.
That's lovely little reference.
Right, now Hall of Fame, I mean, the Cameron Green over was sort of Hall of Fame worthy. Takeo Sparrow, that was fun in its own way. Just the entire end of the game with the manic, Kohli playing, middling it to sweepers and going, okay, not there, because he knows that Mohammad Shami's at the other end, and he knows that Mohammad Shami cannot resist trying to hit it out of the park. I mean, all of it. It was chaotic. It was fun.
I've got notes. I've got good nominations. Okay. Peter Handscomb executes a direct hit run out. Umesh Yadav, diamond duck. 28 diamond ducks, that's a duck without facing a ball, run out in the history of Test cricket. 2 in the last fortnight. Harry Brook was out for a diamond duck in England's chase at Wellington a couple of weeks ago, and Peter Handscomb, we spoke to him before, he was very, very happy with that.
The other way you can get a diamond duck is to be stumped off a wire. Does that ever happen in Test cricket? That would be very hard to do.
One worth checking with our stats man, Phil Long, tomorrow. How's this? World record today, or equal world record anyway. The first 6 partnerships for India were 50s. Ooh. Or 50 or above, I should say. The Axar one being the final one, they put on 100 and lots, 163 here in Kohli. Yep. That's only happened 2 other times in Test cricket where the first 6 partnerships have been worth 50 or more, and one of them was in the Tide Test, and India did it today. The Tide Test of 1960-61, not the one in 86, but still, I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, the people running down as well to greet Kohli, that was so cool. When he was on 94 or 95, the fans streaming down from the shade into the sun, banging the bottles on the chairs. The atmosphere was just sensational. So yeah, privileged to be here to witness that moment in time.
I've got one more to throw in. So when we get onto the ground to go down to our post-match interviews, we have to come through the sight screen. Yes. Right? There's those big white sight screens, and there's a security guard there, an attendant, who makes sure that nobody's going to walk through it in the middle of an over and disrupt play, even though that seems to be happening all the time. Well, there are 2 of them actually, 2 security guards who stand there, and you can sort of see through the cloth, but not entirely. You can see shapes, but you can't see clearly. Now, what I noticed today was they've poked a couple of little holes in. Okay, so there's one at eye level. That makes sense, right? They've widened it out a bit so they can sit there and watch the cricket through that. There's another one a little lower, about waist height. It's much smaller, that they can just poke the tip of one finger in to pull the cloth towards them, so they can press, so that they're not smushing their face against the thing like this and like billowing the cloth out. They can pull it in and then pop their eye to the hole and watch the cricket that way. That is ingenuity, my friends. That is how to make sure that you have a good time at work.
That's Indian ingenuity. We love it. We're only here for one more day of Test cricket, then we're back to where we live. It's been an absolute joy so far. One more day, once more with gusto on the final word tomorrow. If you've enjoyed what we've done through the series, patreon.com/the final word. You can listen to our history show. Is that in the feed yet?
No, it's not. It's going up after the test.
Going up after the test match. That's called Story Time. You'll enjoy that. Our weekly show, our interview shows, they're all there. They're not always on YouTube. In fact, they're rarely on YouTube. So find us in the podcast feed. That's it from us. Australia tomorrow have to bat for a couple of sessions, then shake hands and they can all go home. And we'll do the same, but we've loved being here. Good night.
See you on day 5.